thanks for taking part in the Wrexham.com General Election 2019 Q&A video.
You're welcome.
We'll dive straight in. Are you able to tell us a little bit about yourself, any political history, and why you have the political leanings that you do?
Yes. Well, I'm Sarah Atherton. I'm standing for the Welsh Conservatives. I'm a local person. I've been a member of the Conservative Party for about 4 years. I stood in Allen and Deeside in the by-election, about 2 years ago now. In fact, it's about a year ago. Seems longer than that. These 6 weeks have gone slow. I'm a local person. I left school at 16, went to a comprehensive school, left school, joined the army, left to have a baby, brought up a child on my own, and then retrained as a nurse at the Miler. I did that for a while, then became a social worker, specialising in older people mental health. In between all that, I ran a business for a few years on the Wrexham industrial estate, and now I'm a community counsellor. So I've got all that experience, about 27 odd years working in the public sector, helping people, and I now want to take that further in a political career.
The locality of candidates is one debate we've spotted. Do you think it's important that people are represented by those who live and work in their communities? And you've mentioned you've stood in Allen Deeside as well. How does that fit with standing in Wrexham?
No problem at all, because I'm from Wrexham. In fact, it's better that I do stand in Wrexham. There's a debate on this. I think it's much better to have a local candidate because you have an understanding of the nuances of a town, the culture, the background, the history, where people come from. And you also know the services and what's going on. And there is a tendency to parachute candidates in. For my association, they certainly didn't want that. They wanted a local person to be standing in Wrexham.
If you were representing Wrexham at Prime Minister Questions today, what question would you ask the Prime Minister and what would you hope to uncover by asking it?
The boss. I would like to ask him how definite is he that if he gets a majority and the withdrawal agreement goes through on the 31st, which is something I've pledged and signed up to, I would like to see us leave the EU in full at the end of the transition period at the end of next year, and I would like some guarantee from him that that's what he'd do.
This is the third election in 4 years. People say they're fed up with politics, party politics, politicians feel as though you're all the same, they never listen. What's different about you?
Okay, what's different about me is I'm local, I'm a nurse and a social worker, and I'm a veteran. And that's quite a unique combination because you're right, people are fatigued across the board, all parties, and we need to get people out to vote. And there's life beyond Brexit. And you say to people, they are fatigued with Brexit, and I get it. But actually, these are crucial decisions that you're going to make. And there is life beyond Brexit, and there's lots that Wrexham can achieve and do if you've got the right candidate. So it's about selling myself as that right candidate.
You mentioned life beyond Brexit. What non-Brexit policy commitment are you most proud about standing alongside for this election?
It's got to be the town centre. It's got to be improvements of the town centre because that by far, and I'm sure all the other candidates have said the same, that is the key issue for Wrexham people. Our town centre, our homelessness, drugs, antisocial behaviour and empty units, accessibility, buses and parking. I think we probably all said that one.
What relevant experience would you say you've got for the job of MP specifically?
Specifically?
To be an MP?
Advocacy, representation, because as I said before, I spent over 27 years advocating for people, helping people to help themselves first of all, because that's really important that we have social responsibility, but recognising that when people are vulnerable and can't help themselves, then you advocate and act for them. And I've been doing that for 27 years in very critical situations and in crisis situations. And it's the ability to listen, it's ability to help people to help themselves, as I said, but actually recognise when you need to be their voice. And talking about needing to be their voice, it's really important that the representative of Wrexham, the next MP, does represent Wrexham. And that also means in Brexit.
You've touched on a few issues earlier, and you've said that you're campaigning for a better Wrexham. Specifically on those and the elements you've mentioned, what would you look to kind of deliver as MP on those?
We've got a need for housing. We know we've got a need for housing. I'll touch on the town centre in a minute because that's the key issue, but we've got another. I'm trying to think of another issue. Housing. We need more housing, But we need also affordable housing, and we need supported living housing for older people. But you've got to balance that up between the needs of people. There's quite a few action groups, as you know, at the moment, trying to protect their parks and green spaces. Now, Wrexham is predicted to have 8,000 new homes over the next few years. I support that within the LDP, but what I don't support is building on precious green spaces and parks. So that's one area I'll be looking at. Our health service across the board is another area, followed very quickly by social services and the domiciliary care that people receive in their homes. As a nurse and social worker, I've got a unique bundle of skills there that we need to be petitioning the Welsh Labour government over to make sure that standards that are already low aren't normalised as low, and we don't accept it.
Not talking about party manifesto items, as hopefully parties can look after those themselves, but as an MP you might get a chance to bring in a new law via a private member's bill. If you did get that opportunity, what law would you like to bring in yourself?
I had a lady that came to see me the other day, and it got me thinking, and her daughter had gone on Facebook and had this pop-up cosmetic surgery, and she'd had fillers, and the lady came to the house, put her fillers in, her mother didn't know about it, she had an allergic reaction, ended up in hospital, tried to trace the woman who'd done it, and not to be seen on Facebook. She'd gone, she'd vanished. So I think to protect our young people, particularly when we see on the television a lot of these reality TV programmes and seeing what I've seen firsthand, I suppose it's quite a unique private member's bill, but the protection of people, or particularly women, not all women, having cosmetic surgery, and the stopping of these pop-up cosmetic surgeries.
There's been a lot of talk in the last 3 years since the referendum about Scotland, Northern Ireland, England in their own right. How will you make the Welsh voice stronger in Parliament?
That's a good question. We live so close to the border, stone's throw, and we live, work and play foot in either camp. We're English and we're Welsh, but actually we're not. We are proudly Welsh. We play with our neighbours, we work with our neighbours, we go over to Chester shopping, or whatever, but we are fiercely Welsh. And it's about recognising and being proud of that heritage, culture and language, and saying to people that you have an opportunity here. This is ours, this is us. And you only have to go around the world and you see a flag flying, a Welsh dragon. And I think it's giving people the opportunity to engage with that heritage and culture and investing in it. So whether that's Welsh language, whether that's preserving our old buildings, whether it's our heritage, whether it's celebrating music and dance, that's what we need to invest in, because we've got a good, proud Welsh history. But that doesn't mean to say we are separate from the Union.
Your stated values are a hand up, not a hand out. And the Conservatives have been in power since 2010, and locally there's 1,825 adults and 940 children that required a handout from a food bank locally in the last 6 months. What specific new policies are there that will give them a hand up to those who have been forced to get a hand out?
Food banks. It's not good that people have to use food banks, and hunger in the UK, it's not good. And you're quite right in saying that a lot of children are affected by this. Universal credit has had a hand in this, I accept that, and certainly transition periods and heavy-handed sanctions weren't the way forward, and I'm pleased to see some of those are being addressed. But a decent living wage, which is what the Conservatives want to promote, is hopefully going to help people out of food hunger. But also, as an MP, I would like to look at the Welsh Labour government's policy on things like crisis intervention. What are they doing? Because as a social worker, I use food banks on behalf of clients, and they don't just use it because they're on universal credit. They use it because they've been burgled, or they've had a relationship breakdown, or the domestic situation's changed. So there's lots of other reasons why people use food banks, and it is a very complex issue. But I'd like to look at the Welsh Labour government's policy on breakfast clubs, after school clubs, lunch clubs, holiday clubs, because I know there's a lot about holiday hunger. So unfortunately, benefits are one reason, but there are lots of other reasons, and I think I'd like to look at that in more detail to see where we could help that, and a living wage would also help that.
We've had the Prime Minister Theresa May at the time visit Wrexham twice during the general election campaign. If Boris Johnson did visit and referred to tank-topped bum boys, flag-waving people as pickaninnies with watermelon smiles, or compared Muslim women who wear burqas to letterboxes and bank robbers in your company, what would you do?
I would challenge him, right out. Yeah, I would absolutely challenge him, without a doubt. And what's more, they're my people he's insulting. No. I get told off for that, but I would. That's outrageous, really.
As it's something that was brought up by the Conservative leader candidates themselves, do you think your party and leader has done enough to tackle Islamophobia? And if not, what more would you like to see done?
I know within the party that there has been a lot done recently to tackle not necessarily Islamophobia, racism across the board. It can't be tolerated, not in this day and age, not in any day and age. And you know, I think any hint of Islamophobia or any racist behaviour at all should be stamped on. Full stop.
In October 2018, you attended a meeting on the Local Democracy and Boundary Commission. That's about changing electoral boundaries, something that needs to be done absolutely fair to be democratic and representative. And on your public post, you said, opportunity knocks if the Conservatives play it strategically. That comes across as gerrymandering. Does it represent that you favour things that benefit the party first over the people?
Why can't it do both? It could possibly do both.
But it doesn't show a preference?
No, you could do both.
Okay. Former Wrexham Conservative candidate Andrew Atkinson has been asked by the BBC about claims on your leaflet. The leaflet section in question reads, I've worked closely with councillors to address infrastructure concerns like the A483 traffic measures and neighbour policing. Exec Board member Councillor Atkinson said there's no such traffic schemes and we don't work together. And there's been another councillor who says that they were surprised to be on your leaflet, and I realised that there was something in the media with Councillor Hugh Jones criticising you about PSPO comments as well. Are the Conservative Party locally united behind you?
Yes, they are, yes. I was with Debbie Wallace, Councillor Debbie Wallace in Boris, and I think one of the pictures on the leaflet is showing her and me looking at the speeding on the ring road. I'm also a community councillor, so I did attend the consultation of the A483 with the chair of the community council, and only last week, the week before, I met with a full Conservative council group. Full Conservative council group, and we discussed the election and how to turn Wrexham blue. So no, I don't accept that.
On your leaflet and website, there used to be a different imprint and agent, and that's obviously changed on the nomination form that was submitted. And one leaflet we've seen was missing the imprint entirely down the bottom. Should the leaflet have an imprint, and are you able to mention why the agent changed?
The agent changed because we got an election agent through, because it was the chair of the association, and then when the election was called, we had an election agent put through, and all our literature has gone out with imprints.
The end of this election could see a coalition coming together, and all candidates say that they're focusing obviously on an outright win. But put that aside to try and force a direct answer, what would be your most comfortable coalition?
I wouldn't have one. We wouldn't need one, I hope.
Are you able to say how you voted in the referendum?
To leave. Absolutely to leave.
And you've not changed your position since?
No.
You've said a vote for you is a vote for Boris.
Yeah.
Is Boris Johnson the person to deliver your Brexit? And then do you think he's also the person to subsequently unite what appears to be a divided UK?
He is certainly the person that can deliver the Brexit I want. I did 3 years ago, as many of us did, probably want a slightly harder Brexit. But 3 years is a long time, and 3 years has let me believe that actually to get this through, we need to have concessions. We need to make some allowances either way. This deal that Boris Johnson's got does that. Because it's neither hard nor soft, it's in the middle, it's the best opportunity to reunite the divided country we've got. And people are saying to me on the doorstep that this is fine, we're going to work with this because this is going to enable us to move on.
What do you understand as the downsides of Brexit to Wales and Wrexham? And if so, what mitigation would you expect to put in place to solve them?
I think the downside will be trying to reunite the people. I think that will happen because people are fatigued with politicians across the board. And I think in a year or so's time, when Brexit has been delivered, We've moved on, we've healed the transitions, we've starting to address issues like our health service or antisocial behaviour in town, rough sleepers. I think people will just automatically move on and gel.
The backstop has gone, and there's a new trade regulatory border potentially in the Irish Sea that could replace it. Can you explain very simply how that would all work and your understanding of it? For example, would there be border controls in Holyhead?
I can't tell you that. I don't know. I'm not privy to that sort of information. My understanding is there'd be a border between Northern Ireland would be in the customs union with the UK, and there'd be some sort of border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. Whether that's hard or soft, I don't know. I'm not privy to that sort of information.
Boris Johnson talks about getting Brexit done and uniting the country. You have Scotland calling for a second independence referendum. Boris Johnson appears to have abandoned the DUP. Independence has been mentioned more in Wales. Given that it appears that he can't unite his party, do you think he could reunite the union?
Yes, he certainly, I don't think we'll have any problem in Wales because we are so close to the border, as I said before. We see the benefits of being hand in hand with England, so I don't have a concern about Wales whatsoever, particularly where we are situated. I do have a concern about Scotland. I'm a unionist, Conservative Unionist Party. I don't want us to separate. I think, particularly if we're going to have a Corbyn government, which we're obviously not going to have, but we run a risk then of an Indy Ref 2 and we could lose the union, so I am very concerned about Scotland.
Speaking about referendums, this will be the second time an election has been run with Brexit being a key topic. How is calling an election to get Brexiteers and people with the same views as you on side different from running a second referendum on the Prime Minister's deal?
Say again?
How is it different, this election, than not going, say, for a referendum on what is a big topic?
Democracy. We have a democratic will of the people, 17.4 million. Our constitution is based on democracy. We spoke, we got the majority, and that must be enacted.
As MP, how would you represent those who've taken a differing view on you on Brexit?
Absolutely fine, because we need to unite. First and foremost, after Brexit, after transition, we need to unite. I think we'll move on. We'll start looking at health services, we'll start looking at our town centre, we'll start looking at housing, affordable housing, we'll start looking at job opportunities and wealth and growth. I think Brexit will probably be long gone in people's minds.
Have you got anything to add for potential voters watching this?
Yes. Can I? Yeah. Well, if you want to vote Liberal Democrats, Greens or Plaid, you are voting against the democratic will of the people. If you want to vote Labour, you are voting for the candidate as a Remainer and you're voting for more of the same, more confusion, and we still don't know what the Labour position really is on a lot of things, including Brexit. If you vote for the Brexit candidate, it's a single ticket, it's more of a pressure group than a party, you're going to vote for a hung parliament. So the only vote to move us on, the only vote to move Wrexham on so we can address the issues, is to vote Conservative.